Welcome to the second episode of the Safety Connects webinar series. I am Anna Milan. I'm the product marketing manager for Safetica, and today I am joined by John Paste, Safetica's channel account manager for North America. So today we will show you how data loss prevention can help with regulatory compliance. But before we dive into the product demo, let's take a step back and see why it's more important than ever for organizations to pay attention to data protection and data privacy initiatives. So, with the continuous expansion of threats and risk, and I'm sure all of you in this webinar have heard of GDPR, PCI DSS, HIPAA, compliance practices are expected to go even further in ensuring the safety of sensitive data. So, what does this mean? This means that we can expect more compliance standards to emerge. And in fact, Gartner predicts that by 2024, 75% of the global population will have its personal data covered under privacy regulations. We can also expect current compliance standards to become stricter to ensure even better data protection. So, regulations are now essential to ensure that organizations follow the same set of standards when protecting, sharing, collecting, or storing sensitive data. That said, it's also crucial to understand that the price you pay if you don't comply. In total, firms spend almost $15 million on the consequences of noncompliance. That's more than twice or two times higher than what firms typically pay to stay in compliance. And with global data protection regulations constantly changing, organizations need to be adaptable and prepared. It only just really reinstates that now is the good time or the perfect time to consider investing in technologies that help make it easier to manage compliance. And to show us how Safety Connects, our SaaS DLP solution, can help to adhere to regulatory requirements, I turn you over to John.
Perfect. Thank you very much, John. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everybody. My name is John. And again, as Anna mentioned, I'm the territory sales manager for North America for Safetica. Today, we'll be going over a bit regarding how Safetica Next can assist you in complying with regulatory compliance, whether that be in the US or elsewhere abroad. In addition, we will be going over also our relatively new module we have in the solution called Shadow IT. And I would like to firstly start with Shadow IT. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Next, fantastic, good on you. For those of you who are not, this is the main dashboard for Safetica Next. One can easily sign up for a trial on our website, particularly when you do go to the Safetica Next tab under our offerings. But regardless, this is the main dashboard we can see here, which gives you a bunch of good information in terms of what you may be looking for at a high level out of the solution. Of course, we do have these options here on the left-hand side. And if you would like to drill deeper into the solution, this is how one would do so. Now, firstly, going towards, again, as mentioned, that Shadow IT section. This was previously named as websites and applications, although we did change it to Shadow IT because there has been a recent trend in the market recently regarding the usage of this terminology, Shadow IT, as the monitoring of websites and applications is kind of deemed as a, let's say, shadow activity, if you will, and therefore we have this named as Shadow IT. So as we can see on this top-hand section here, we have the application section as well as the website section. Below on this activity overview, we have a longer list as to who's accessing what in terms of the active hours we can see here. And we see, for example, websites here, applications here, and so on and so forth. Now, depending on how we have things set up in the solution, there are many different ways how these will show up. So Google, again, relatively generic as a website or something to be visited. It's in just a generic website category. Now, we can see Salesforce here is listed as a website, but we have this little indication here, which is marked as a safe destination. Many organizations are using some CRM systems, whether it be Salesforce, HubSpot, or others. And generally speaking, when you would be sending information to these sites or receiving information from them, this should be a trusted site, which we do have set in this destination side over here. Now, if we go down to this area, for example, on Facebook, now you probably don't necessarily want many folks to be accessing Facebook or using Facebook while they're at work. Of course, this could be marketing, for example. But as a whole, we have this set as a untrusted destination. We do not want individuals uploading information to Facebook. And this can apply to any website that you would categorize as either trusted or untrusted. We can see we have WhatsApp as well here. This could be replaced with Telegram or any other sort of messaging system. And we can see this is marked as risky. Now, this was done by either one of the users or one of the admins to say, hey, this is a risky website. This should be looked at further and potentially moved into either the untrusted or trusted destination area. And if we scroll down, of course, we can see many other things going on here as well. And at the top, also to touch on this, as I mentioned, the applications and websites. So this also gives you an overview as to what is known as either risky or non-risky and what could potentially be new as risky or non-risky within the environment. We can see we have up here this set to the last 7 days, which is fine. You could also go for today, the last 30 days, or some sort of a custom range, again, just depending on what sort of information you're looking for. Now, on the non-risky, we could click on that and it'll set the type to applications and does not contain new and does not contain risky. So we can see relatively normal applications being used, Teams, Word, and Figma. Again, pretty standard and again, not risky. Now, for the risky events, we can set again to application and does not contain new and contains risky. So we can see WhatsApp desktop, potentially risky, as well as Windows command processor, again, could be risky. We could try to put in some scripts or something along these lines into the machines. And again, we can just kind of cancel that out here. And if we want to see what is new in the environment, we click on that and we can see Greenshot, for example, which is a screenshot application. This is new and it is marked as risky because, well, it can capture the screen content. That may or may not be something you want to use in the organization. And again, you can mark this as untrusted or something along these lines to prevent this from happening. Also, within the protection side of things, you could specifically exclude screen capture from any sort of, let's say, file sharing. So we can go back then again. And the same applies to the websites. It's the same difference. You click on these and it'll show you what is known as not risky and what is new when it comes to not risky and vice versa when it comes to risky. And again, we can see we have all that information here. If you would like to drill down and kind of understand more specifically from specific users, then that would be in the user behavior section. You can expand that further here and then have a look at the analysis of that user behavior and see what are the most often applications and websites being used by them. Naturally, we see Minecraft here. Probably not something you want to be using on a work machine. Also Facebook, same difference. So this is a way to also gain the insights into who's doing what on their machines. And also just touch on this quickly. As we can see in the user behavior section, this is, let's say, sorted from the most risky to the least risky users. Just touch on that very briefly. Now, also, if you may have noticed, we have this segmented from company activities as well as to personal activities. So the company activities naturally are generally speaking within the now normal operating hours that you are using your machine and are standard working hours, 9 to 5 or what have you. Now, within the personal usage, we can see if we click on that, there's a privacy protection going on here. And some of this information, may not be work usage, naturally, why it's called personal usage. And we can continue then to look further. and see maybe what individuals are doing on the work machines, which are not work related. Now, this can be very interesting for some, again, potentially not, but regardless, we do have this option here. You do not have to use it, but it is here nonetheless. And it works essentially the same as it did in the company activities. We see the applications here, and we have this as known, not risky, and new, also not risky. And then also on this side, we have the websites, and again, known, not risky, and then some new ones as well. And we can go through here and kind of see what's going on. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. And of course, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to send any messages. Can also be via this stream, can be direct message to anybody. Really just depends on your preference. Now, one thing I would like to touch on quickly, because we are going over the shadow IT area, is in regards to the destinations. So as we could see, there was this, let's say, bullseye or what have you, a site scope, something or other for untrusted. And then we have that shield as for safe. So we can see in untrusted, we do have like WhatsApp, for example, listed in the untrusted area, which essentially means if you're trying to share any information to WhatsApp, that is an untrusted application and that will not be allowed. If you do have it allowed for one reason or another, you will still have this notification or icon next to that transfer to understand that it was sent to an untrusted destination. Now, for the safe destinations, we can see also this is generally speaking where you would put anything you're using on a daily basis in terms of your organization. If it could be, for example, Salesforce, as we do have here, SharePoint, DocuSign, what have you, wherever you do need to share any sort of sensitive information within your organization, you should mark this in the safe zone. And then we can see on this side here, we have loads of the unassigned websites, which have just yet to be assigned as to untrusted or to safe. And this also applies for email domains as well as USB devices. You can pop in the untrusted email domains into here, and the safe email domains, for example, could be company domain or current clients or what have you, into the safe domain. And then finally, for the USB devices, again, same difference. Company approved devices would be here. If somebody tried to bring a personal device, which is, again, not company approved, then that would be put in the untrusted section. And then all of the unassigned here. Alrighty. And so after going over the shadow IT section and a bit about that, and kind of just to explain that a bit further as to how it works and how to operate with it, from this point also, as Anna had mentioned, now we would like to go into and discuss Safetica Next, or rather using Safetica Next in regards to regulatory compliance. So that would be in the manage section of the solution. And we do have our data classifications here, as well as the protection rules in relation to them. So firstly, when it comes to a DLP solution, such as Safetica Next, one needs to define the data categories or the data classification. So you can tell it what to look for and what not to look for. Now, all of this we can see here, except for these few test ones at the bottom. This is all predefined within Safetica Next. As soon as you would have the environment, this would all be here. And we can see these toggle switches here are just turning that on and off, depending if we want to use them or not. And regarding this specific use case, I would like to touch on PCI DSS, because that's a relatively common theme that people are looking, or rather want to look into. It's payment card information, and it's definitely information you do not want leaving your environment. You do not want to expose your client's payment information, and so on and so forth. So in this instance, we can turn that on, and we can see it is now activated. And then going into the data category itself, or the data classification, we then kind of have an understanding as to what is this in relation to exactly. So we have the name up here, the description as well, and we have these rules here. Now, with Safetica Next, again, for those of you who may or may not have seen the solution as of yet, You can create as many rules as you want within a data classification. I can just keep going and kind of just make up whatever I want here, choose anything really, and just kind of save it and keep going, keyword, regex, what have you, and just build that out. Although in this sense, again, we do have this predefined to make it as easy as possible. So we have the credit card number here and credit card security code as well. So if we expand here, so we can either delete this or edit it. Once we go into here, we do have some predefined algorithms already set up within Safetica Next to look after credit card numbers first off. Now, secondly, we have in here a pre-built with a bunch of keyword definitions. So you can see card holder, card owner, so on and so forth. And again, you can remove some of these if you believe it's not necessary. You can add more if you believe it would be. And if you want to expand upon it even further, you could create a regex or something like this and build that out here. Really just depends. The world's your oyster. You can build it up as much as you wish or limit it as much as you wish. So this is how we have it set for the card number, for example. And we can just cancel, get out of here. And then for the card security code, it's going to be relatively similar. We open that up and we can see we do have a regex set up here, for example. And then again, a bunch of the keywords in relation to either the card holder, card owner, security number, so on and so forth. So that is how that works roughly. Also up at the top here, if you might have noticed, there is something called occurrences. This is something where, generally speaking, one would set this for either 2 or higher. If it finds one of these within an email, could be some odd email signature, could be really anything at the end of the day that you put inside of your email. If it would match with this regex, and if it finds it only once, then it will flag it. And depending on how you have it set to either log, block, or sorry, log, notify, or block, it'll act on one of those actions. If you set it to 2 or higher, or you can even do 5, or really whatever you're looking for, then once it would find 2, 4, 5, however many of these occurrences in an email or in a image or in a message or what have you, it will enact whatever policy you tell it to enact. As a general rule of thumb, again, I would have that set as, for example, 2 or higher. If you find 1, it could be a mistake. If you find 2 or more, there's probably a pattern. So let's just save that actually. And we can go back to here and then also change that occurrence to 2 or more. And we can save that as is. I'm happy with that. So again, we can see we have that toggled on here. And now we need to tell Safetica Next what to do when it finds any information in regards to PCI DSS information, essentially card holder information. So what I can do here, so I can do PCI DSS as a policy name. And we do want to have this set as high. Depending on what you are looking to set as your policies, it could just be informational. So you can set it as no risk, just so you're getting the information in terms of the logs or what have you, whatever's going on the endpoint. But in this case, we want to leave this as high. Now, for the action, we would like to block. Again, we have the option of log, notify, or block. If one were to choose block, then it will apply for all of these in the sense that it will be logged, the user will be notified, and the action will be blocked. If one were to choose notify, then the action will be logged and the user will be notified, but the action can still be completed. So in this sense, we will choose block. Excuse me for 1 second. I'll grab a drink of water. All right. And now for the file categories. So we can choose specifically either, for example, text files, audio, so on and so forth, CAD files, yada, yada, yada. But in this sense, if we just want it to look after any and everything, we can leave it blank. Now, for the data classification side of things, as we do have that PCI DSS turned on now, so I can check that box here and then set that as such. And as to the destination types, or where we're looking to restrict the data from, or rather for how it's going or where it's going, we can either go into here and choose specifically USB, for example, if we're only looking to limit the movement of data to USB devices. Or of course, we can choose from any of these other options we do have here, or we leave it blank and it will choose all of them as it would with the file category section. Now, when it comes to user groups, this is also something that is very, very useful within the solution. As generally speaking, in organizations, you do have separate areas of the organization which should have separate access rights. So, for example, HR should be able to share some information here or there, which would contain personal information, or finance should be able to share information here or there, which may or may not include some, financial sensitive information, what have you. And for example, sales, they shouldn't be able to really share anything. Other than, of course, quotations and information along these lines. But in terms of that sensitive information that you may have, generally speaking, you don't want that to be sent out from anybody in the organization. So we can set then the user groups here. And of course, that can be expanded upon. This is just some default things that we have here, or just also, this is a test environment. So we do have this also group 1 sitting here as well. But if we leave it blank, it will be applied to everybody within the organization, or rather anybody that does have Safety Connect deployed to their machines. So as we have this set, we got the name, PCI DSS, high risk, action set to block, the data classification, again, chosen to PCI DSS, all destination types, and all user groups, and we can save that. And this is now enacted. It does take a minute or two for everything to sync with the endpoints, but essentially from this point in time forward, if anybody is trying to share any sort of PCI DSS information outside of the organization, that will be blocked, it will be logged, and the user also will be notified that they have done something that they should not have done, or rather attempted to do something that they should not do. Now, one other quick thing I would like to touch on to give you, again, a quick overview as to how simple and easy it can be to set these things up. Let's see if I do have this set already, and I do not, which is good, because that is how I would like it. So, for example, let's just do US Social Security number, and we can just copy and paste that into the description. Create a new rule, again, US Social Security number, occurrences more than 2. And if you do go into that predefined algorithm section, you can see we've got a few things going on here. We can just choose that US Social Security number right here. And we could also do a keyword. We could do US SSN, for example. I'm not going to do a regex because I just don't want to. And I will save that as such. Also, we have this rule library, which is very extensive, and you can also filter out via the regulation, the country, what it's in regards to, so on and so forth. But it's a bit faster for me just to kind of scroll down through here and find the US Social Security number. So we can also just use that as an example. And if we expand into here, we can see it is using that predefined algorithm already, as well as some keywords as well. So let's just bump that up to 2 and save that as is. I can delete what I created and we can save that. So now we can see, once this green box disappears, on the bottom here, we have my new data category or data classification that I created regarding US Social Security numbers. And I can just go back into the protection side of things. I don't see anything here yet, which is good. So US Social Security number, high, action, again, block, file category, we don't care. Data classification, we want to choose this newly created US Social Security number. Destination type, again, we want to block everything, so we leave it blank. User group, want it applied across the organization, and save. And there you go. From this point forward, you are now blocking not only the PCI DSS related information from leaving the organization, but you are now also preventing the leakage of any US social security numbers from leaving the organization. And of course, again, very simplistic overview as to how that can be accomplished. But this can be done with whatever you may deem as sensitive information. And every organization has their separate areas or separate sects of what they may or may not deem as sensitive, what is sensitive to HR or finance or sales or C-level. And it can be, again, within the industry. If you're a banking organization, naturally, you want to keep your clients' records, secret. You don't want that to be shared out into the public as to balances, so on and so forth, payment history, yada, yada, yada. Also, then, for example, we work with many manufacturing companies. You don't want any of these CAD drawings being shared outside of the organization. That is some proprietary information that can also be set specifically within NXT to look after CAD files. And again, it kind of keeps going and so on and so forth. Really, it's more so on the creativity of the user and how you can build out these data classifications as well as the policies to ensure that you are keeping your data within the organization, and of course also to adhere to any sort of regulatory compliance that you may be dealing with in your territory. Of course, we can see PCI DSS is not the only regulatory compliant area that we are looking after. We do have CCPA, GDPR, GLBA, and so on and so forth throughout. And again, if you want to have these on, great, you turn them on, and then you can create some protection categories in regards to that. Or if you don't want them, you can simply just turn them off. All right. And from this point, honestly, this is the summary of the webinar we wanted to have today, is to show you how you can easily implement basically looking after your data restrictions, or not data restrictions, but your regulatory compliance within your region to make sure you adhere to that, and also to prevent the leakage of any potential sensitive information from leaving your organization, as well as to have a quick overview into our new section that we have here named Shadow IT. If anybody would have any questions at all regarding Safetica NXT or Safetica in general, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach out to us via LinkedIn, via email, on our website. You can fill in a form, what have you. We also do have, and let me just pull that up quickly. We do have I suppose I will accept all cookies. And if you can schedule a demo here, or if you would like to start a free trial, which this is in relation to Safetica NXT, you can simply just click that here, fill in your name, email, phone number, of course, naturally change to wherever you may be in the world. And then we will contact you and take things from there. Although when it does come to the trial, that is automatically generated in a few minutes, and then you will have access to a similar environment as you see here. And if you would like to deploy this onto your own machines, that can be done easily enough once you go into the device section here, download installer, and we can either go for Windows or Mac, just depending, of course. So yeah, that is more or less a wrap up of the webinar for today. And if anybody would have any comments, and let me just have a quick look into the comment section. I can see that we do have somebody here mentioning something in regards to how does exfiltration work that can be notified to IT. So if someone is trying to share a username and password to an internal or external users, can they be notified? It depends on how you have the product set up. Regarding the username or passwords, again, you would most likely have to create a regular expression in regards to this, or in the data classification side of things, you could create something that would, for example, look after username. And if somebody is sharing it in that sense where it would be username colon, what have you, password colon, what have you, in that sense, that would be a way to go about that. Actually, I don't need to create two of these. I could create one. So for example, you could do something like this, save that, and then create a protection category against the sharing of that. that would be a simplistic way of going about it. Of course, it would make more sense if you do have some sort of a say methodology in terms of the usernames or the passwords as well, to create some sort of a regular expression to protect against folks sending that sort of information outside of the organization. I hope I answered that question roughly, at least. I don't see anything else here at the time being, but again, thank you very much for your question, and we can wrap up the webinar for today. Again, thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you do, or rather are interested in learning more, please do not hesitate to reach out, and we can all take things from there. Thank you very much, and have a good one.